Such an honor to have Ambassador Leiter here with us tonight. Thank you for taking time in such a tumultuous time in your country and in Iran. The president has just put on Truth Social just moments ago for everyone in Tehran to evacuate immediately. And this comes as we know that things have escalated in this 4-day conflict. What's the latest? What can you tell us?
Well, I can't relate to what the president said. First of all, let me say, Lyndsay, it's good to be with you. Thank you for having me. I'm not a spokesman for the president. I can't tell you what he means by his tweet. I can tell you that we have instructed anybody living near installations in Tehran that involve research and development for the nuclear weapons program, the ballistic missiles program, anybody who lived next to the broadcast system of the mullahs today, we told them to leave because we get civilians out of the path of fire, whereas the Iranian regime is sending their ballistic missiles specifically into densely populated centers.
It was just today that President Trump, when he was at the G7 summit, confirmed a Wall Street Journal report that Iran has reached out and wants to negotiate. Is Israel ready to come to the negotiating table?
Well, we've always been ready to go to the negotiating table. The problem is that the Iranians have been saying, let's negotiate for 15 years, and at the same time, they're racing towards a nuclear bomb. What really amazes me about the G7 is that the only leader there who understands history and understands where we should be going into the future seems to be President Trump. The European leaders are repeating the same mistake they made 80 years ago, when there was a little guy with a mustache running around Europe saying he was going to annihilate the Jews and was threatening the countries around him, was spreading chaos around Europe, and the European leaders said, no, let's appease him. It's going to be okay. And we ended up with 6 million Jews dead. We ended up with concentration camps, and we ended up with 65 million people killed in the Second World War. What we're doing, and this is what President Trump understands and supports, what we're doing in the Middle East is to prevent wars. This is the war to end wars. This is a war to engender peace in the Middle East. This will help us spread the Abraham Accords, which the president started in his first term.
Let's talk a little bit more about negotiating, because President Trump also put on Truth Social today that Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal, he wrote. And last night he said we can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel and end this bloody conflict. How much pressure is President Trump putting on Israel to get a deal done?
President Trump has completely been aligned with our prime minister now from the very outset, from the moment he entered the White House. And he said very clearly, Iran could not have a path to a nuclear bomb. And I counted today how many times since their first meeting in February, the president has actually said publicly, Iran will not have a nuclear bomb in one fashion or another. 15 times. You can't get clearer than that. The pleasure of working with this White House is what the president says he means, what he means he says. We have had no better friend, and there's no pressure. The president believes that, together with our prime minister, that Iran is a menace. They have spread chaos in the Middle East and around the world. I mean, after all, they try to kill him. Iran tried to kill him twice. They tried to kill former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. These are bad actors. These are malevolent actors. And that's why the president has made it clear, no path to a nuclear bomb.
Why do you think he wants a deal so badly then, or says he does, if he understands who they are?
We want a deal, too. But the deal has to be complete dismantlement of the nuclear infrastructure and no possibility for uranium enrichment. If we have that in the deal, and we have to add one more point, this is very important. The Iranians have driven this home with their ballistic missile attacks on our civilian population centers. They have a plan to develop 300 ballistic missiles a month, 3,500 every year. In 3 years, they'll have 10,000 ballistic missiles. Now, these are like buses. Each missile is like a bus filled with TNT. And they go flying through the air, and they create incredible damage. We've already had 25 people killed, over 300 injured, extensive damage. And if they were to have 10,000 ballistic missiles and fire them all at once, and the Supreme Leader has actually said this. He said, what are the Israelis going to do if we fire thousands of ballistic missiles all at once? They'll die, he said. Well, Supreme Leader, we're not going to die. We're making it very clear, we're not going to die. We have to eliminate their race to a nuclear bomb, and we're going to eliminate their race to thousands of ballistic missiles.
Let's talk about the Supreme Leader for a minute, because news came out that President Trump vetoed a plan for Israel to assassinate the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. But then your Prime Minister Netanyahu said today in an interview on ABC, don't be so confident that me and Trump are not on the same page. Is this similar to what we saw from the president last week, where in the Oval Office he said strikes were not imminent? He said, I asked Israel not to attack. Hours later you did, and we found out all along he knew the plan very well.
Well, he did say Friday morning, right after the attack, he was rather congratulatory about our attack. I don't want to get into discussions that are very private between the Prime Minister and the President. I'm usually there and on those calls. I can say this. The Supreme Leader is someone who leads thousands of people in Tehran with chants, death to America. Okay? This is no Democrat or Republican. This is somebody who hates America, who hates Western civilization, who hates the Judeo-Christian civilization. This is a very, very bad actor. Now, at the present time, whether he's on a list or not, look what we've done. The Supreme Leader looks to his right, and he has no IRGC leadership. He looks to his left, all of his nuclear scientists are gone. And he must be saying to himself, is this really worth it? Should I continue down this path? So now, if he's agreeing to some degree of negotiations, we can understand why. But the negotiations have to finish, have to be completed with a complete dismantlement of the nuclear program and the ballistic missile program.
Before we go, let's talk a little bit more about that, because so far the U.S. has essentially said, militarily, we have not been involved in any strikes. It has all been Israel. But if the objective of Operation Rising Lion is to eliminate all of Iran's nuclear capability, can that be done without the help of the U.S. military?
Well, let me say this. Great question. Our ask from the U.S. until now has been clearly a defensive mode. And I must say, we have to thank the administration, the American people, from the bottom of our hearts, because these THAAD missile systems, anti-missile systems, defense systems, and the Aegis defense systems have saved countless lives in Israel. They have intercepted these missiles being fired from Iran. We never can have a hermetic sealing of the skies. So you're always going to have 10 or 15% of these missiles that are going to get through. But the ability to block 75, 85% of them saves many, many lives. So that's our ask. Our ask is defensive. We are committed to completely demolishing the nuclear weapons infrastructure in Iran. That includes all the sites, and we'll do whatever we have to do to ensure that that's the end game. Allies, the United States, will make a decision as to whether or not they're coming in and joining us. That's an American decision. But our ask is defensive, and our commitment is to eliminate, and we have some surprises up our sleeves. There are still a lot of things that we can do.
Well, you guys are good at surprises so far. You've proven that many times. Ambassador Marco Leiter, really appreciate your time. I hope to continue this conversation in the future, so thank you for spending time with us this evening.
It will definitely continue the conversation, because there's never a dull moment in the Middle East.
All right. Thank you so much. Kris, back to you.